Hey everyone, it's Joe Glines here from Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, and Jackie from Copenhagen, Denmark.
How's it going, Jackie? Haven't seen you in a while. Oh,
Yeah, it's really going well, and yeah, happy to see you too, Joe.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we're laughing because we're doing this back to back, and we've been on the call here for a while. But so we had another topic we were going to discuss here. It's and it is a really good question, especially for noobs, right? Okay, I know I can have a script that's I can create each script separately, but I can also combine them. And how do you decide whether for any given script, if you're going to one combine it versus have it separately, or have it running all the time also? So that's kind of the overall question. The first thing I started thinking about was, well, how frequently am I going to use whatever it is that I'm going to be running? And if it's not something I use that often, I probably won't have it launched and running all the time. It's just going to be in a hotkey or something. Some other script's going to launch it for me.
yeah, and for the most part, I haven't had those generally running scripts
Mm.
too much. I've had working situations where I have had hot strings and hotkeys for specific things. Those I would probably put into start folder so they started up with the computer.
Mhm.
But I've never had these major scripts with all kinds of functionality that just ran all the time. I would be much more inclined myself to have a folder, let's say call it a folder or a specific place where I would have a script for a single task or for a single um, specific thing that I was doing either in this program or that, or for sending this or for collecting that data or for scraping that or for converting this. And so I also feel that it's a hard one to really know which to go for, because a lot of times having a continuously running script would make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
and let's go through the logic though of so the one is, yeah, I mean, it's just, and that's not even the big one. It is the first thing that pops in my head of like, is it something I rarely use, or is it something I'm gonna use a lot? The next one was, is there a certain functionality like my screen clipping tool, which having that in another script that's going to launch it, I'd have to hit a hotkey and then do something else again to use it. And that's where I'm like, yeah, I don't want that, right? That to me is, I'm not gonna say asinine, but it's not what I'm looking for. That function, that's actually one of the reasons why I broke that one out separately, was I wanted instantly to grab and do what I'm doing. I don't want to launch it first.
no, and to me, that's one of the very best examples of what I recently just hit hit into myself is, okay, I'm sitting, I'm helping someone out, whatever. And I'm saying, can you send me the recipe number or whatever? Send me some kind of
Mm-hmm.
identification so that I can more easily find you on the server or whatever it might be.
Yep.
And what they most of the time ends up happening is them sending me an image of that.
Yep.
Can even be their phone they use to actually
Yep.
take an image of the screen.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But then I end up having wanting to have an OCR
Right.
functionality right there, just just to save myself the hassle of actually retyping
Yep.
whatever they did. Whereas I would have, of course, loved if they had just used their computer, selected it, and copy pasted it to me. Okay, they didn't. But at that point, if I then needed to go and look up where I had that OCR thing
Right.
tool I
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
and then it was just be quicker to just type it
Right.
in. So
Right.
there is one point where I'd say that just needs to run,
Yeah.
needs to be at my fingertips when that situation happens for it to really be productive.
You know, and that one, it's a little different than what my point was, but you're spot on. Also, is when you need it, do you need it like that, type of thing? Because the other one, like even if I have a hotkey for it, I sometimes you just want something right then instead of having to launch something else and then hit another key. It's the timing. It's not the annoyance of having to do this stuff. Right, is the point.
No, I know from your big uh, hot string example that you have and stuff like that. But to me, it's also like, yeah, if I'm to save time on writing my own email,
Yeah.
every time, if I don't have that launched when
Right.
my computer starts,
Yeah.
then I would end up typing it from time to time, and then I wouldn't have saved much from launching it. So at 8 o'clock, I would type it. Then at 8:15, I would type it again, and then I would think, I need to launch that, and then I'll go launch it, and
Right.
then I'll type it again at noon. But the real time saving throughout that one day would have been having it running all time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know, on that side note, I've started to do is to make sure I copy stuff to the clipboard, because Windows 10 has that built-in clipboard with history. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? That's on my clipboard. It's just not the last thing I did, and I can go back to it. But it's taken me some practice to get to where I can remember that it's still on my clipboard, because that's not what I'm used to. Another one, and this is one that really bit me in the butt early on, was my likelihood to share it. Right. So when I put everything into one script, man, untangling that mess can really be a pain. And so the screen clipping one was one. I would show it to people like, oh my God, I want that. Give me that. And I'm like, okay. And it would take me forever to go and, pull it all out of my other scripts. And so there's certain ones I'm like, am I going to share this thing separately with people? And it's just easier to having it all self-contained.
Yeah, I'd say your screen clipping tool is a great one. I don't use it, even though I should. Right, it's the same with me every time. It's like, why don't you use that? But I love when we are talking about something and you clip something out and then we keep scrolling and it's just there.
Oh man, yeah, it comes in really handy. And the OCR in it too, like to your point, it's
exactly.
Like I watch webinars now and I'm, they're like, well, we'll send you the deck, and I'm just grabbing it and pasting. I'm like, I got the text, like almost always perfectly. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll get it, but I got it now.
Yeah.
Easy.
Exactly. And it's stuff like that where to me, in the correct settings, either on your home computer or your work computer, having something that runs or starts up with Windows, just do it. Just have it. And then, as you said yourself, then contemplate it when you make something new. Is this something that I will need once a month over here? So there's no reason to slow the startup or having that loaded into memory each time or whatever, because the AutoHotkey interpreter, and even with a big script, you won't really feel any kind of slow down from having that running. So unless you have something that keeps track,
it's highly resource intensive,
whatever, keeps looking for all kinds of windows, and if you have, don't know, directive limited hotkeys and whatnot, you will probably never notice if it was or wasn't running. Just that extra lost time when it inked. So
the other one, and I think this one's usually avoidable, but is it in some way does it conflict with something else that I have either running at certain times? It's rare, because usually you can work around it, right? You just have to be smart when you're setting it up. But sometimes there's certain scripts you can't or shouldn't have running because they use the same hotkey or they do something else. And but there's a lot of things you can do to help programmatically avoid that. But it would be something I'd consider.
Yeah, that's worth keeping in mind, of course. And if you're very keen on always using the F keys for your things,
Right.
then of course, if you have specific things that you load up throughout the day, having something generally running that also uses the F keys, then from memory, the last thing you loaded up will take precedence.
Right. Right.
So if let's say you had a form filling hotkey on F7, and then you have something that scrapes a web page, and you also put that on F7. So having one running generally, and then you load up the other one, yeah, then later you won't be able to use your form filling hotkey or whatever. So yeah,
But, and I think you did a good job there, Jackie. What I was going to say to that is, if that second thing you added is really a temporary running thing where you're going to run it while you're doing something, and then when you're done with it, you always exit out of it, it actually still works fine because, to your point, you launch that one later, that one's going to be the active one. It's going to work the way you want it to, and then you close it, and then the back one's fine, right? So I've had that thought process of like, wait a minute, these are using the same hotkey because I use my browser back and forward buttons a lot, but it often doesn't become a problem because I'm focused on that one program anyway, and it's fine. But it
yeah.
definitely, yeah, you could end up.
Yeah, and if you make your generally running one with the correct types of limitators, like the directives of
Right.
this one, a hotkey only works when this window is active and stuff like that, it probably won't clash.
Yeah.
Unless your other one is just a general hotkey that works everywhere, then it might actually overrule it still. But yeah, it truly does depend, but I don't see any issue with have a continuously running script,
Right.
because
You
it
know,
shouldn't.
one that popped in my head initially was a while ago. I was watching so much on YouTube, and the stupid ads were driving me nuts, and so I wrote a script to click that skip button. Um, and but it would only, I'd have to launch the thing to tell it to watch it because I just didn't want it running all the time. And then I'm like, I could have said, I did say if Chrome's not running, close it, but I could have had it first watch if Chrome exists or not. If it is running, launch it, and then only look at I think we could programmatically pretty well get the URL, right, and then say if it's YouTube, then be doing your searching, otherwise don't be doing your searching.
Mm.
Or if it's the active Chrome window and it has YouTube as the URL, right? That would, maybe that's the way to
Yeah,
go. But
yeah,
yeah, anyway, to your point, you can, if you're just a little, almost write it down, right? And you're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I can design this in a smart way where it's not eating up my resources. Even then, even if it was looking all the time on today's computers, it just doesn't matter. I mean, it's rare.
it's rare. It is.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that was a good actual short talk. Short talk. All right, man. Good talking to you. See you.
Bye, Joe.